Hello there and welcome to the show, and today I'm going to be talking about AEW Dynasty. Dynasty took place live from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on April 6, 2025 at the Leah Chorus Center with an attendance of just over 7,900 people. This was the second edition of AEW Dynasty, and I was not a fan of the build and I was not a fan of the show. In my opinion, Dynasty 2025 has been one of AEW's worst pay-per-views ever. Let's talk about it. Now, before talking about the actual show, I want to talk about the match card. Including the 0 Hour, Dynasty had 12 matches, and about half of these matches could have been cut from the show and could have been done on either Dynamite or Collision. About 50 to 60% of the show felt like a glorified episode of Rampage and Collision. This did not feel like a major pay-per-view. This felt like a glorified TV show special. And I'm actually going to start off with 0 Hour. Max Caster came out for his open challenge. Max Caster, by the way, is absolutely buried and directionless. I have no idea where they're going with this guy, but there is no salvaging this character. Anthony Bowens came out, has a new presentation, new theme song. He looks great. They have a match. The Acclaimed is one of AEW's biggest success stories. Homegrown tag team, former tag team champions, one of the best acts in all of AEW. They break up unceremoniously at the beginning of the year, and this is the first time that Max Caster and Anthony Bowens are facing each other one-on-one, and it goes 40 seconds, and it's placed on 0 Hour. Why wasn't this on the main show? You did this on 0 Hour. What are we doing? Up next, we had the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. 3 matches for the tournament were on Dynasty. However, a couple of these didn't need to be on pay-per-view. Mark Briscoe versus Kyle Fletcher. Both guys are great wrestlers, but I mean, this match does not belong on pay-per-view. You could have had it main event Dynamite or Collision, but in the middle of a pay-per-view, what sense did that make? And I'm a big fan of Mark Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher. Mercedes Moné versus Julia Hart. Julia Hart has been a non-factor on AEW television, and this was one of the most predictable matches in AEW company history. Why was this on pay-per-view? This could have easily happened on Dynamite or Collision. Will Ospreay versus Kevin Knight. Now, Will Ospreay is the best in-ring performer in the world, but this is Kevin Knight's second match in AEW, and he's a replacement in the tournament for Jay White. I get that Will Ospreay has to be featured on pay-per-view, but you could have done this to open an episode of Dynamite. The Hurt Syndicate versus the Learning Tree. On what planet does this match belong on pay-per-view? Bandito versus Chris Jericho for the Ring of Honor World title. Isn't Supercard of Honor coming up? Why is this match on pay-per-view? This match card should have been condensed. A few of the matches should have been cut. The match order should have been reshuffled. The way this pay-per-view was set up was a complete fail. Also, the build to the show was not very good. Let's dive into the show. The show started off with Will Ospreay versus Kevin Knight. This was a match in the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. This was Kevin Knight's second match in AEW. Kevin Knight recently signed with AEW, and Tony Khan is gonna push this guy to the moon because he did an interview where he said he chose AEW over WWE. This was supposed to be Jay White, but Jay White is legitimately injured, and Kevin Knight was his replacement. AEW missed an opportunity to show how Jay White could have been taken out of action, but they did nothing with that. All that being said, this was a pretty good opening match. Will Ospreay is the best in-ring performer in the world. This was a pretty good fast-paced back and forth between Knight and Ospreay. There was a springboard crossbody and forearm by Ospreay. Kevin Knight hit a UFO splash, which is a great move. Stun Dog Millionaire and corkscrew kick on Knight. Ospreay and Knight go back and forth with some chops and forearms. Kevin Knight hits a Hurricane Rana and springboard crossbody. Kevin Knight countered a Styles Clash into a DDT on the stage. Kevin Knight hits a springboard forearm on the outside. Will Ospreay makes it back into the ring by the 8 count. He eats a DDT and kicks out at 2. Knight countered a Styles Clash into a Hurricane Rana, mule kick by Will Ospreay. UFO splash from the top rope by Kevin Knight. Will Ospreay kicks out at 2. An Oscutter was countered into the backslide, pretty good counter. A Styles Clash and Oscutter for a 2 count, and Will Ospreay hits the Hidden Blade for the win. Will Ospreay advances. This was a pretty good showcase for Kevin Knight, and this was was a pretty good opening match. Will Ospreay is incapable of producing bad matches. One of the best wrestlers in the world. In my opinion, he is the best in-ring performer in the world. This was a pretty good match. I enjoyed this opening match. The pay-per-view started off very good. Dynasty was off to a pretty good start. Tag team match for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. The Hurt Syndicate, Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin versus the Learning Tree, Big Bill and Brian Keith. The Learning Tree is a horrible storyline and a horrible group. This needs to end as soon as possible. I completely hate this. The Learning Tree are awful. They are garbage. The build to this match largely revolved around MVP and MJF. When this started, I was very interested to see how MVP and MJF would work together, and I think their promos were very good. However, as the weeks have progressed, I'm not liking the way MJF is being presented. He's coming off as very desperate. We know MJF, longest reigning world champion in AEW history, and he's coming off as so desperate to join the Hurt Syndicate, and not a big fan of that. Initially, I was on board, but as this has progressed, I'm not seeing where they're going with this. This match honestly could have happened on Collision. This was completely meaningless with a super predictable outcome. You're not taking the tag team championships off of the Hurt Syndicate. Hurt Syndicate are definitely over. There were "We Hurt People" chants when this match started. Big Bill took control early on. No mention of Ricky Starks on commentary. So great job at showing how petty you are, TK. Shelton Benjamin hit a beautiful jumping knee. MVP and Taz were hilarious on commentary. Shelton Benjamin hit a German suplex on Big Bill. Big Bill hit a Bossman slam, got a 2 count. Benjamin reversed a choke slam but got hit by a big boot. Bill hit Snake Eyes on Lashley. On the outside, MJF punched Big Bill with the Dynamite Diamond Ring, and then he was speared by Bobby Lashley. In the ring, German suplex and spear on Brian Keith for the win. The Hurt Syndicate retained the tag team championships. On the episode of Dynamite that followed this, there was a celebration for the Hurt Syndicate. MJF came out to join them, and he was given the thumbs down by Shelton Benjamin. He spoke with MVP for a bit. I've really tried to wrap my head on where they're taking the storyline, and the only idea that I came up with is so terrible that I am positive Tony Khan will do it because of how terrible it is. All In, Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin versus MJF and Wardlow for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Wardlow, I legitimately do not know where this guy is. It was reported that he was injured, but he's been off of TV for what feels like a year. He hasn't been referenced. There were reports that his contract was coming up. I have no idea where Wardlow is. The only direction I see this going is Wardlow coming back to TV, being paired with MJF, and having them challenge for the tag team championships at All In, which, I mean, looking at where Wardlow was in 2022, man oh man, has the creative team failed Wardlow. MJF, this man was the longest reigning AEW World Champion in company history, and this is what they have him doing. I'm a big fan of the Hurt Syndicate. I really enjoy the presentation, but AEW right now, the tag team division is the weakest it's ever been. They legitimately have the worst tag team division in professional wrestling. So hopefully they can shape up their tag team division. This match, I mean, who cares? I was not impressed with anything that happened in this match, and moving on. Julia Hart versus Mercedes Moné Owen Hart Foundation tournament match in what was arguably the most predictable match of the night. Julia Hart came out first, one of the best entrances in all of AEW. No reference to Malachi Black, so once again, great job there, TK. They traded roll-ups to start the match. Mercedes botched a move and then did the dance to try and recover. Julia hit a sliding clothesline. Mercedes hit a Meteora. Mercedes went for the Three Amigos. Julia countered the third one, and it looked like Mercedes fell too late. Julia hit a diving crossbody on the outside and a DDT that got her a 2 count. They traded a couple of roll-ups that looked a little stiff. Julia went for a moonsault, overshot it. Mercedes tried to counter but hit nothing but air. 2 backstabbers by Mercedes. They traded submissions. The crowd was definitely behind Julia Hart during this match, and in the end, Mercedes rolled up Julia. Mercedes wins to the surprise of nobody and advances to the next round round of the tournament, where she is going to face Athena. Athena was shown backstage watching this match, and this is going to be the match at All In. I'm not expecting Mercedes to win the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. I'm expecting a series of matches with Athena. It is definitely great to see Athena back on AEW, being that she's been wasting away in Ring of Honor where no one watches. Mercedes versus Athena. I'm actually looking forward to this match. This match between Mercedes and Julia, I mean, it was nothing overly special, not bad, but not good either. This match just existed. It occupied some time on this show. That was basically it. The Death Riders, Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, and Pac versus Rated FTR, Adam Copeland and FTR for the AEW Trios Championships. The Death Riders storyline is awful. This is the worst storyline in professional wrestling right now. It is garbage. Tony Khan is a clueless hack for continuing the storyline, and this is the worst main event storyline that I've seen in the last couple of years, and one of the worst storylines I've seen play out in the last 15 years. Pac and Dax start off the match. Cash Wheeler hits a springboard on Yuta. Second rope power slam and suicide dive by Claudio. Cash tagged in Dax Harwood. He was intending to tag in Adam Copeland. Dax countered a European uppercut from Claudio. There were 3 submissions locked in the ring by Copeland, Dax, and Claudio. Swinging dropkick combination by the Death Riders. Adam Copeland got the hot tag, hits an Impaler DDT on Pac. Superplex, frog splash, and diving headbutt combination by Rated FTR. That was a very good sequence. Powerbomb on Yuta by Dax. Pac got a 2 count on Dax. Pac then locked in the Brutalizer on Dax. Cash and Copeland were held back. Cash was able to make the save. Shatter Machine and Spear on Yuta. Claudio makes the save, breaking it up at 2. Cash suplexed Pac on the outside. Copeland speared Claudio on the outside. Adam Copeland almost hit a spear on Dax. Yuta took advantage, hit the Busaiko knee on Dax Harwood, and that got them the win. The Death Riders retained the Trios Championships. Post-match, and they've been teasing this for the last couple of weeks, Dax is helped back up by Copeland and Cash. Dax then hits a pile driver on Copeland. He brought 2 chairs into the ring, and then Cash Wheeler turns heel. They hit the Shatter Machine on Adam Copeland, the pile driver on the chair, and then 2 concertos by Cash. A stretcher is brought out, and FTR mock Adam Copeland on the stretcher. The heel turn was done well. FTR are now officially heels. I was not expecting the Death Riders to lose the Trios Championships during this match. Adam Copeland presumably is going to be written off TV, and when he comes back, I'm assuming that we're going to get Adam Copeland and Christian Cage versus FTR at All In. How they're going to turn Christian Cage face after everything he's done as the Patriarch is beyond me, because Christian Cage played such a great heel. I don't know what their plan is. I doubt Tony Khan even has a plan to turn Christian face. He'll rely on nostalgia. Oh, Edge and Christian. That is not enough to sell us on a Christian Cage face turn and Adam Copeland and Christian Cage teaming together. We're gonna need some logic here, TK. FTR turning heel, I mean, you could see this coming from a mile away. Dax was gonna turn heel, and you're not gonna break these 2 guys up because they are a great tag team. This match was pretty good. I think this would have been better to main event an episode of Dynamite instead of being in the middle of Dynasty, but that's just me. This was a solid match. I enjoyed it for the most part. The heel turn was done pretty well, but I feel like this would have been better to close an episode of Dynamite rather than be sandwiched in the middle of Dynasty. Toni Storm versus Megan Bayne for the AEW Women's World Championship. I have no idea who Megan Bayne was before signing with AEW. Still have no idea who Megan Bayne is because Tony Khan and AEW's creative team has done no effort in explaining who she is, what she wants, what her backstory is. Nothing. She just showed up one day paired with Penelope Ford, and here we are. Bayne pinned Toni Storm in a tag team match a couple of weeks ago. That's how we got this match. I don't know anything about Megan Bayne, but I like the presentation. Toni Storm came out with a Rocky Balboa type entrance. Storm hit a crossbody. Bayne hit a suplex. This was a power versus speed dynamic. Follow-away slam on Toni Storm and a big boot off the apron. Bayne hit a great suicide dive on Luther. Toni hit a tornado DDT on Bayne off of Luther. That was very impressive. Bayne hit a running splash and a butterfly suplex. Penelope Ford caused some interference. Bane hit 3 belly-to-belly suplexes that got her a 2 count. Luther stopped Penelope Ford from interfering again. Toni Storm hit a tornado DDT and locked in a submission, but Bane was able to reach the ropes. Bane hits a back suplex. Storm hit an inverted German suplex. That looked a little scary. It looked like Megan Bane over-rotated. Storm and Bane trade German suplexes. Falcon Arrow for a 2 count by Megan Bane. Storm 0. Bane kicked out at 1. Bane hit a jumping clothesline and a power bomb, and Storm rolled up Megan Bane for the win. Toni Storm retains the AEW Women's World Championship. No surprise here, Storm is the best thing about the AEW Women's Division. Megan Bane, she just got to AEW and we still have no idea who she is, so putting the title on her would have been a mistake in my opinion. This was a very good match. Up until this point, this was the best match of the night in my opinion. Both women worked very well. Even though I don't know anything about Megan Bane, she was very impressive in this match. Toni Storm is great. Her character work is phenomenal and she's a great wrestler. This was a very good match and I really enjoyed this match. This was very good in my opinion, and up until this point, best match of the night. Kyle Fletcher versus Mark Briscoe, Owen Hart Foundation tournament match. I like Kyle Fletcher, I like Mark Briscoe, but this definitely could have happened on Dynamite or Collision. This did not need to be on Dynasty. And this was again another super predictable match. Tony Khan has really been pushing Kyle Fletcher and Mark Briscoe hasn't been pushed in anything substantial in a while. Fletcher hit a dive while Mark Briscoe was making his entrance. Mark Briscoe came back with his redneck kung fu. The referee during this match, he stopped Mark Briscoe from doing something, and Mark Briscoe looked at the crowd and he said, "Boo this man," while pointing at the referee. Mark Briscoe is hilarious. I wish he would be pushed more prominently on AEW television. Briscoe hit an elbow off the barricade. Fletcher hit a suplex on a chair. Fletcher hit a big boot off the apron. Fletcher hit 3 power bombs. Briscoe made it back into the ring by the 9 count because Tony Khan of course had to have that spot somewhere on the show. Running kick by Fletcher, missile dropkick by Briscoe, double clothesline, both guys are down. They trade forearms, Fisherman Buster for a 2 count by Mark Briscoe. Mark Briscoe hits 2 brain busters, one of which on the ropes. Back in the ring, Briscoe gets a 2 count. Briscoe hits Razor's Edge from the top, gets a 2 count. Sliding Lariat and Froggy Bow, another 2 count. Nice series of counters by both guys. Froggy Bow on the outside. Kyle Fletcher counters a Froggy Bow and hits 2 running kicks. Brainbuster off the top turnbuckle for the win by Kyle Fletcher. This was a pretty good match. This was one of the better matches of the night in my opinion, but again, I feel like this would have been better on Dynamite or Collision. This did not feel like it needed to be on Dynasty. Both guys worked great. I'm a fan of both guys. This was a pretty good match. One of the best matches of the night. But again, I feel like this would have been better on Dynamite. Chris Jericho versus Bandito. Title versus mask for the Ring of Honor World Championship. Why this was not on Super Card of Honor, which is coming up in May, I have no idea. And to answer the question that might be on your mind, was this as good as Chris Jericho versus Rey Mysterio from 2009? The answer is no. Chris Jericho, this learning tree gimmick is the worst thing he's ever done in his entire career. This gimmick is garbage. It is awful. Being that this was title versus mask, it was pretty predictable that Bandito was gonna win. Jericho hit a code breaker immediately out of the gate as the bell rang. That got him a 2 count. Bandito hit 2 dives and a twisting corkscrew for a 2 count. Bandito hit a delayed suplex. Jericho hit a power bomb off the apron to the floor. 15 count because this is a Ring of Honor Championship match. Please retire chance. Bandito hit a sunset powerbomb for 2. Jericho hit a top rope Hurricane Rana. Bandito hit a frog splash. Jericho and Bandito were standing back to back. They did the 5 paces and Jericho, being the heel, of course, attacked him from behind. Bandito looked like an idiot. Bandito botched the 21 plex attempt. Jericho locked in the walls. Brian Keith and Gravity came out. They brawl on the outside. Jericho hit Bandito with a baseball bat. 3 count. Jericho retains. And hopefully we were gonna move on, but Bandito's family family who were at ringside, they called over the ref. Aubrey Edwards called for a replay. The match restarted. Why this doesn't happen more often, I do not understand, because this creates a massive logic gap. Anyone can call out that, hey, there was interference, but this is the first time in recent memory that I can recall someone from the crowd calling for a replay, so make of that what you will. The match restarts. Bandito, he hits the 21 plex and regains the Ring of Honor World Championship. He is now a two-time Ring of Honor World Champion. This match was not very good. I had zero investment in this match. This did not belong on Dynasty. On the episode of Dynamite that followed this, Jericho had his talk show segment where he smashed the TV and walked away. Reports came out that Jericho was taking time off, which is what should have happened a year ago when he beat Hook at Dynasty. This was not a good match, and Jericho, him being off of TV, legitimately is the best thing for him. I'd keep Jericho off of TV for at least the next couple of months. Like, have him be off of TV for the entire summer. There were reports coming out that he could potentially return to WWE. I'll believe it when I see it. This was not a good match. I did not care, and keep Ring of Honor and AEW as separate brands. That is all I have to say. Daniel Garcia versus Adam Cole for the TNT Championship. I legitimately forgot that Daniel Garcia was the TNT Champion. He has not been featured on Dynamite at all, and Collision is a meaningless show. It is not must-see TV, which is where he's been for the entirety of his AEW TNT Championship run. Adam Cole and Garcia had 2 matches. This is the 3rd match between the two of them. No time limit, no interference. Garcia hit a drop kick. He hit the 10 punches in the corner. Cole went for the Panama Sunrise but landed on his feet. He was selling his foot from the surgery that he had 2 years ago. Garcia targeted that foot. He locked in a couple of submissions. Garcia hit 3 swinging neck breakers. Adam Cole rolled up Garcia for a 2 count. Garcia hit a lariat. Garcia hit a twisting pile driver that got him a 2 count. Decent sequence of counters. Ankle lock by Garcia. Adam Cole made it to the ropes. Garcia threw Cole into the steps. Cole dropped Garcia neck first on his knee. Panama Sunrise on the outside. Garcia fell as Cole went for the running knee. Garcia hit a Panama Sunrise. Garcia then lowered the boom that got him a 2 count. Adam Cole then hit 2 Panama Sunrises and he lowered the boom for the win. Adam Cole won this match. He is the new TNT champion, his first championship in AEW, ending Daniel Garcia's TNT championship reign at 134 days. One of the worst TNT championship reigns in my opinion. So now we've had 2 consecutive meaningless TNT championship reigns with Garcia and Jack Perry. We'll see if Adam Cole will do anything meaningful as the TNT champion. This was a fine match, but again, the build took place on Collision, and the way this match played out, it felt like a Collision match. This did not feel like a match that should have been on Dynasty. This was okay, but given the caliber of wrestler that Adam Cole is and what Daniel Garcia has produced in the last couple of years, both guys are capable of better than this. I was not impressed with this match. Triple threat match for the AEW International Championship. Kenny Omega versus Ricochet versus Mike Bailey. There was a fatal 4-way #1 contenders match. Ricochet and Mike Bailey both pinned Mark Davis. It was ruled a draw, and that's how we got this triple threat match. I don't know a lot about Mike Bailey. I'm not too familiar with his work. I know that he spent some time in TNA. Ricochet escaped the ring. Kenny Omega and Mike Bailey fought each other to start the match. Kenny hit a crossbody on Mike Bailey. Mike and Kenny then team up on Ricochet. They slap his head and we get the "You are bald" chants from the AEW crowd. Love it. Ricochet hits an AA on Mike Bailey and dropped him on Kenny Omega on the barricade. That was actually a very impressive spot. Ricochet then took control. Neckbreaker DDT combination. Double suicide dives. Bailey kicked Ricochet as he was doing commentary. That was a funny moment. Great series of moves, counters, and pins. Excellent back and forth by all 3 guys. Moonsault by Mike Bailey on the outside on Ricochet. Terminator dive by Kenny Omega, always great. Fight forever chance. Ricochet hits a dive on the outside, taking both guys out. Bailey hits a dive on the outside, taking both guys out. Bailey hits a standing knee drop and a beautiful kick on Omega for 2. Ricochet pulled out the ref. Bayley went for the knee drop again, but Ricochet moved. Bayley landed right on the apron. That looked painful. Reverse Hurricane Rana by Mike Bayley on Ricochet. Kenny Omega hit dragon suplexes on Mike Bayley and Ricochet. Kenny hit 2 V-triggers on Mike Bayley and then 2 V-triggers on Ricochet. Kenny hit a German suplex on Ricochet. Mike Bayley hit a heel kick. Double pin on Omega for a 2 count. Bayley missed a shooting star knee drop. Omega locked in the knee bar. Ricochet hit a 450 on Omega. Ricochet hit vertigo on Mike Bayley, 2 count. Bayley hit another kick on Omega. Ricochet hits a shooting star press on Omega. Bayley countered a shooting star for a 2 count on Ricochet. Bayley did the crane pose and hit a kick on Ricochet. Ultimate weapon on Ricochet. Omega broke it up. Ricochet hit a poison Rana on Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega hits an avalanche, 1 winged angel on Ricochet. Kenny Omega pins Ricochet and wins. He is still the AEW International Champion. Post-match, Kazuchika Okada comes out. They stare down for like a second and Kenny Omega immediately leaves the ring. Couple of things. Number 1, I do not know a lot about Mike Bayley, but he was very impressive in this match. I wish Tony Khan and the creative team would tell us more about him, but he is a very good professional wrestler. Second, I really like the presentation of Ricochet's character. Say what you will, but he is entertaining. I'm enjoying Ricochet's character work. Thirdly, this match went over half an hour. It clocked in at 31.5 minutes, something like that. This to me was the best match of the night. However, no reason it should have gone more than 25 minutes. A few minutes could have been cut, and this would have been a perfect match. Went a few minutes longer than it should have, but this was still a very good match, match of the night, and one of the best matches of the year. Omega and Okada, I've been saying it for months, we're getting it at All In. The AEW Intercontinental Championship is going to be introduced. I think it's a mistake, but Tony Khan will do what he wants to do. I just hope he does a good job at telling us the story of Omega and Okada, because we will need a lot more than, oh, these two had a feud in New Japan. You need to tell us that story on AEW television. All 3 guys, Kenny Omega, Mike Bayley, and Ricochet, the 3 of them earned their paychecks on Dynasty. They worked phenomenal. This was a great match, best match of the night. Loved it. Went a little bit longer than it should have, but this was a very good match. This was great. Best match of the night. Our main event for the AEW World Championship, Jon Moxley versus Swerve Strickland. Swerve beat Ricochet in that #1 contenders match at Revolution, one of the best matches at Revolution. To earn this match, last year Samoa Joe was the AEW World Champion. Swerve beat him at Dynasty to become the World Champion, and this was the inevitable match. The Death Riders have a new logo. They're incorporating an owl into their logo. What that has to do with anything, I have no idea. This was an unofficial no disqualification match because there were weapons involved. I am sick of Jon Moxley, Marina Shafir, the briefcase, the Death Riders. I am tired of this garbage. This is the worst storyline in AEW company history, one of the worst storylines in all of professional wrestling ever, the worst storyline in professional wrestling right now, and I want to send a message to Tony Khan. Tony, TK, boss man, I've been watching AEW since day 1. What you are presenting to us right now is complete garbage. You are a clueless hack, a complete idiot, and you do not know how to book a wrestling show. For the good of the company, please step down from creative. Moving on to the match. This match was actually better than Jon Moxley versus Adam Copeland from Revolution, which is not saying much. At least the crowd was invested in the match. They were more lively than the crowd at Revolution. However, this was the second worst main event in AEW company history with how the match ended. So flashing forward, because I don't want to waste a lot of my time talking about the actual in-ring work that took place in this match. Marina hit a very weak-looking shot on Prince Nana with the briefcase. Mox accidentally hit a neck breaker on Marina. Paradigm shift on Swerve for a 2 count. They brought out a ladder, and Swerve hit the Swerve Stomp on Moxley off the ladder through the announce table. That was actually a great spot, the best part of this match. This card could have been condensed. no wrestling show should go past midnight. There was a horrible looking chair shot on Paul Turner by Moxley, vertebraker on Moxley by Swerve. Hangman comes out and he's going for the buckshot, but the commentary team is playing it up. Oh, who is he gonna attack? The Death Riders come out, they attack Hangman. Hangman cleans house, hits the Deadeye on Moxley. The Ops come out, Samoa Joe, Hook, and Katsuyori Shibata, and they take out the rest of the Death Riders. It's just Swerve and Moxley. Swerve threw a chair at Moxley, Swerve stomp, the lights go out. The Young Bucks return to AEW for the first time in 6 months. EVP trigger on Swerve, and the boos rain down in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Moxley retained the championship, the Life left the arena, and the pay-per-view goes off the air with Moxley holding a briefcase. And one of the closing lines by Excalibur as the show went off the air, Jon Moxley has AEW in a death grip. Quite the choice of words there, Excalibur. This was awful. This was the second worst pay-per-view main event in AEW company history, only behind Jon Moxley versus Adam Copeland from Revolution. This was horrible. The match, the actual in-ring work for like the first bit was not too bad. Crowd was definitely more invested than they were at Revolution, but the finish and what happened completely erased all of that. This was garbage. This was awful. This was terrible. I'm gonna start off with the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks left AEW television after losing the tag team championships to Private Party, running away from the Death Riders, and now they're back and they want to join the Death Riders because when they came back, they cut a promo saying they want to extend an olive branch to Jon Moxley, combining the worst storyline in AEW with the second worst storyline in AEW with a failed takeover angle with a current failing takeover angle. This makes no sense from a storyline perspective. The Young Bucks are EVPs. Tony Khan might be the CEO, but the Young Bucks also control a section of AEW. They're trying to take over what exactly? This legitimately makes no sense. And combining these two storylines would be a horrible idea. It would be the dumbest thing that Tony Khan has ever done, which is saying a lot. Up next, on Dynamite last week, Pac was legitimately injured. So now on AEW Dynamite tomorrow, because it's Tuesday night as I'm recording this, Jon Moxley, Claudio, and Yuta are defending the Trios Championships against Samoa Joe, Shibata, and Hook. The Young Bucks claimed that they interfered in this match for Hangman. They did it for Hangman. It's like, oh, I did it for The Rock, except minus the comedy. That legitimately makes no sense because the Young Bucks and Hangman are not on good terms. Also, Kenny Omega came out at the end of the Young Bucks' promo on Dynamite, and Kenny Omega looked like the biggest idiot on AEW television, which again is saying a lot. All of this makes no sense. Tony Khan is an idiot. He can't try good creative anymore. He has lost the plot. I'm not even sure he had the plot figured out to begin with. Moving on to the Owen Hart Foundation tournament for a second, we've got that wild card facing off against Hangman on Dynamite tomorrow. In my opinion, that wild card can only be one of 4 people. Jeff Jarrett, Bryan Danielson, Darby Allin, and Jack Perry. None of these are of any real interest to me. Also, being that we've got Double or Nothing coming up, there is no need for Anarchy in the Arena or Stadium Stampede. There is no need for Swerve and Hangman to team up. That is a terrible creative idea. All of this. It's like Tony Khan is attempting to do a Game of Thrones thing where you have all these storylines and he's trying to connect them all together, except they're coming together and they're forming a tangled web of garbage that makes zero sense. This match between Swerve and Moxley started off decent, ended horribly. The follow-up was terrible. This does not make sense. Fan investment is at an all-time low. Jon Moxley is going to be the AEW World Champion going into All In. He's going to be the World Champion for at least the next 3 months. Jon Moxley and this Death Rider storyline, they've run AEW into the ground. I don't care who takes the belt off of Moxley. It'll be too little too late. It will take years for AEW to regain the fan goodwill and investment that the storyline has taken away. I want to end this by sending a message to Tony Khan. Tony, I've been watching AEW since day one. What you are presenting to us right now is one of the worst storylines in all of professional wrestling. You have lost your mind. There is no endgame to any of this. Putting the belt on Jon Moxley until All In is a mistake. He should have lost the World Championship in his very first defense. No one has been built up in this Death Rider storyline. You have driven your audience away. I don't care who you put the championship on. Will Ospreay, Darby Allin, Bryan Danielson, doesn't matter. They will not save AEW. I mean, Jon Moxley should lose the AEW World Championship, but he should have lost the AEW World Championship months ago. The World Championship, what you're claiming is the most prestigious championship in all of professional wrestling, hasn't even been seen since October. October 12th, 2024. Wrestle Dream. That date will forever go down in AEW history as the day where the decline of AEW went to the next level. Tony, for the good of all elite wrestling, please step down from creative. And Jon Moxley should never be given creative control ever again, because this is the worst storyline that you have ever produced, and this may legitimately be worse than Jinder Mahal's WWE Championship reign, because with that, it was only SmackDown that was affected. At least we had NXT Black and Gold. This is negatively impacting everything related to All Elite Wrestling. This World Championship reign should have never even been a thing. But Tony, being that you're a mark, you had to give Bryan Danielson that moment, even though it made no sense storyline-wise. AEW Dynasty 2025 will go down in history as one of the worst pay-per-views that AEW has ever produced. And if you don't believe me, why don't you go on cagematch.net? Because this is one of your lowest rated pay-per-views, AEW Dynasty 2025. This overall show felt like a glorified episode of Collision. You had a few good matches. This is not the quality we expect from All Elite Wrestling. For the sake of AEW, step down from creative. AEW Dynasty 2025, this show at best was average. That is all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. You can follow me on Instagram at Said_2000, and I will see you on the next video. Till then, take care.